meeting of the Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors. At this time, we'll have a roll call.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hollebush?
Here.
Director Brewer?
Here.
Director Jewell?
Here.
Director Hart is absent. Assistant Mayor Roberts?
Here.
Mayor Brown?
Here. At this time, we'll stand for our invocation to be given by Director Stephen Hollybush, and our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be led by our Public Works Director, Tyler Richards.
We'll bow your heads. Lord, thank you for the incredible opportunity that we have to come together and serve the citizens of Texarkana. Lord, we pray that you would be with us as we make decisions on behalf of our citizens tonight. I pray that you would lead us with wisdom and that we would make decisions that would be for the benefit of all. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. At this time, we'll move into our citizens' communication time. If you wish to address the board tonight, it would be beneficial for us if you would fill out a citizens' communication card. We could have a record of your attendance. I have one of those turned in. I believe it's Miss Yolanda Johnson. Miss Johnson, could you come forward? Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Johnson. I'm here to address that I received a letter about a home that I own at 1705 Hickory, which is parcel number 5230210, about either tearing it down or I don't know what the other reasons were. The home, I bought the home, I believe, in 2006. I left and went overseas in 2015, and at that time I did have some of the things that I lived in it, but I left the utilities off. So it was no longer grandfathered in where the electrical work that I had done, the plumbing that I had done was no longer up to code. So when I came back, I did have a lot of the things torn down, the back porch, the old garage that was there because it was unstable. I did buy another home in Atlanta and I started a trucking business, but I'm back in education, so a lot of the money was trying to keep the company going, and I actually started the company to try to have enough money to make up to repair the home. My son, before we got this letter, my son actually did try to get a loan through the Naval Credit Union, and he's actually going through that. He actually wants to buy the home and move back here from Los Angeles. So the house actually has 8 of 4 new windows in it. It was built in 1940. So 8 of it has a lot of work that's actually been done in the inside. It may not look like it's the original from the outside, the original siding, but it actually has a lot of money that I put into it when I originally lived there. It does need some repair. It is repairable. So I'm requesting that home not be on the list to be torn down. I mean, you can look through the windows and see it actually is in good condition on the inside, even though the outside it doesn't look. It needs some painting and some things on the back. But in comparison to 1707 Hickory, which I actually owned for a couple of months in 2008. And I get on a sale, like a sale, some kind of sale. It wasn't like a complete title and all that. And I actually gave it back to them because that house is riddled with termites, and there's no repair done to it. So in comparison to the 2 homes, my home would be a better home as far as repairing, putting back on. I think pretty soon what we're going to do is to get the plumbing so we can actually turn the water on and have utilities while he gets the other work, gets the money to do the other work. But my son is moving back here. I have a grandson that's on the Arkansas side, so he's 5. So he's trying to move back so he can be closer to him as he grows up. So I'm just going to request that parcel number 5230210 not be on the list to be torn down, and we'll just keep the permit. We'll buy the permit for construction and keep that until we repair the home.
Okay.
What address was that?
1705 Hickory.
We'll have to ask Todd. So, Roger, excuse me. So when you have a request, our Public Works Department's here. So when we have a request like that, and it's on the agenda for tonight, maybe you or Tyler could answer this, is she has some requirements and stuff certainly that she would have to meet for it not to be demoed. Do we go ahead and include that for tonight's ordinance, which is on the books, and then give her the opportunity to come to Public Works tomorrow and make it right?
Yeah, there's actually, they actually have, the way it's stated in the ordinance, is she has 30 days after tonight
Okay,
to take a full permit.
okay.
So I can actually pull the permit?
So what we're saying is it will be included in the ordinance tonight because it's made it this far to the board, and then you'll have 30 days to remedy that, to remove it from this list.
So how about we would just-
You need to meet with, go to Public Works and get purchase the additional permits and things that would be required to get it off the list.
Can I actually, I'll have to come back, because I actually work in Houston. I live in Atlanta, but I work in Houston. And I actually took off 2 days.
That's fine. You'll have 30 days
Okay, so we'll do that.
after.
Okay.
I'll just take these in order that I received them. Bill Eldridge. Bill?
I was wondering if you could read that or not. My penmanship's not very good. I've been a resident of Texarkana, Arkansas for about 12 years and recently moved to a little cul-de-sac, Vicky Lane. Vicky runs perpendicular to Garland Avenue, and it's that stretch of Garland that runs between the Arkansas Boulevard on one end and the feeder road on the other end. You'll know it because it's got Chubby Cheeks and it's got that real kind of rundown motel on the other end. Anyway, in the last month, I picked up at least 4 bags of garbage. I mean, 50-gallon bags of garbage. And the garbage consists of food bags, baby diapers, lots of whiskey bottles, lots of beer cans, because they're coming out of Chubby Cheeks. And to my way of thinking, they could be violating 3 laws. Number 1, open container, because they got to open that container to empty it and throw it out. Number 2, it's littering, which I think in Arkansas carries between a $100 and a $1,000 fine. Number 3, it could be a DUI, because they're drinking in the parking lot and pulling right down that street. Now, what's going on now, the street's narrow to begin with, and you've got brush. If you have 2, this is another little issue, if you have 2 vehicles, especially a SUV or a truck that comes along, meets each other, your truck's going to get scratched, or your SUV, because you got brush on that road. And if you've been on it before, it is narrow. I mean, you feel like you're going to clip those side mirrors when you come across something like that. So you don't have any room. You've got to get right over on the edge of that road. And when you get right on the edge of that road, that brush is going to just like cats coming down the side of that thing. So I guess, I don't know if you could put speed bumps there. There's also houses, and you've also got duplexes that run along that street. And of course, you have empty lot, which most of the trash goes in the empty lot, or right there next to the motel. And then you've got probably, 5 to 7 acres of nursing home, retirement center, that's being built at the far end of that. And you've got construction workers in there. And how much traffic is going to be going through that place when that's completed? It's already a cut-through. Everybody uses it for their beer and whiskey and wine cut-through. They use it cut through quick to go home, hit Arkansas Boulevard, go to Walmart, or come back in and hit the service road and hit the interstate. So it's a very, very busy little street. I did see a traffic counter there, so I know somebody is taking note of it and beginning to look at this traffic count that's on that road. But my concern, too, are the children that are along there, because you have some children in houses. You've got a lot of them in the duplexes, and they invariably will chase a ball or get on a scooter or a skateboard or something come through there, and you can tell them all day long, don't do it. But we've all been kids, and we think, I'm not going to ever get hurt. So that's a real concern. And like I said, I know that there's laws being broken, and I'm not sure if they're actually ticketing littering or not, because I know that's an issue. Of course, it's going to be hard to me, it would be hard to detect. Because if you've got a unit out there and they see it, I'm not going to throw anything out that window. But my dad was a state trooper in North Louisiana. I'll finish with this. He would ticket people in Lincoln Parish going 5 to 10 miles over the speed limit. Everybody thought, why are you doing that? He said, because the overall crime rate in Lincoln Parish is dropped like a rock. He said, because they know when they come through that stretch of highway, they're not getting away with anything at all. And I know it's going to take some awareness. I know it's going to take somebody actually writing tickets, whether it's warnings or fines or community service, to get that to stop, to get that flow to stop down there, especially as we're going to have in the very near future. I don't know how long the project's going to be on the nursing home, but I know we're going to have elderly people in the area. We may have people on rascals riding those things up and down that street. And like I said, it's so narrow and so dangerous to begin with. It needs to be addressed. And I don't know if it's a speed bump. I don't know if it's a slow children at play. I don't know if it might be radar enforced, some sort of signage or something in there to kind of slow down the law breaking up and down that road. So,
I appreciate it very much.
Was this near the Elks in that area?
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, you got that MLS building down there, you got the Elk Lodge, and then I think Gary Strickland is foreman over that. Gosh, it must be 5 to 7 acres or something. It's going to be a huge complex, multi-level complex out there on the end of it. So,
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mr. Tillman. Ms. Juanita Harris. Ms. Harris.
Hello, my name is Juanita Harris. I teach first grade here in the city, and I am founder and CEO of Teachers Support Teachers. Our mission is to live out our vision of encouraging the hearts that shape the minds, and we do this by providing one opportunity per month for self-care to educational frontline workers. And I am here to invite you to our 4th annual fundraising gala. It is going to be March 4th, just in case you wanted to write it down. March 4th, 2023, which is next Saturday at 6:30 at Cross Ties. That is our biggest moneymaker of the year. And what we do with that money is we use it right here in our city and to support educational frontline workers across the nation. That looks like group therapy sessions with licensed counselors. We send teachers to get pedicures. We also have moments in December where we do a Thank a Teacher celebration, and we pair our novice teachers with veteran teachers, and we cater the moment so that they can eat and express concerns and get real-time support right there in the room. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. But if not, I would love to see each and every one of you next Saturday at Cross Ties at our fundraising gala. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
At 6:30. I still have a little time, so everybody can find me. So our fundraising gala is next Saturday, March 4th at Cross Ties. We celebrate educators. We give awards to educational frontline workers, but the goal is to bring the city out so the educators can see just how much support we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Charlie Sanford.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Charlie.
I am Charles Santifer, and I've got a notice for demolition of a property I own at 1610 Harner. Had a fire there, and I'm at the point in my life today where I don't want to undertake a project like this again. I've done many of them, but anyway, I've got a potential buyer for it. That's the only reason I would ask you to give me an extension on this thing, for a buyer who could get a building permit and take the house back, build it back up. Otherwise, I will demolish it and clean the property off.
Okay. You'll get that. So we just learned tonight too that it'll stay on the agenda tonight for the ordinance, but you have 30 days.
Okay.
You'll have 30 days from tonight to get all that remedied, and you'll do that through Public Works.
Okay.
You can go down there tomorrow and take care of the needed permits or whatever and agreements, and they can work that out with you.
That's all I needed.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you all.
Is there anyone else here tonight that wishes to address the board during citizens' communication time?
Mayor.
Yes. Okay.
I guess the statement is Black History 2023. As my statement from within the past month from Black History, now with there being a nationwide assault, CTR, better known as critical race theory, I wonder would it be a matter of time before such speech as this would be banned before a governing body, such as this during Black History Months. My past thought was to stand before you and show history-making picture with well-known civil rights leaders such as V.T. Vivian, John Lewis, Coretta Scott King, and I could also add Colin Powell and Barack Obama. And at the end with Ted Kennedy. Yes, I did say Ted Kennedy. He was a better-known senator as Ted Kennedy, champion of civil rights and promoting fairness and equal opportunity for all. But that may sound good, but at the end of the day is what matters is the living condition of your neighborhood, whether it's black, white, mixed, or even Hispanic neighborhood. And then I want to get on to this, that each year our city receive over $600,000, but our neighborhood really does not reflect, far as I can see, how that for that money. No, we doing good for house demolishing, which you'll see later on tonight, that you'll probably see maybe 10 or 15 houses, I don't know what the exact figure be demolished tonight, but we do not have no type of housing program in place. Now, because, you tearing down houses, but we not building up the neighborhood, I just drove around my ward this morning and later on right before this meeting, I know all the vacant lots, so there's something that really needs to be done as implement some type of housing program. And I really don't think it's going to come within the city, because today I met with this guy, I can't think of, I don't know if he won't let me say his name right out now, but he want to be able to go out and apply for grants for the help neighborhood, the city's neighborhood. And that's what I'm saying. Only way I can see this going to be solved if somebody out there, some company, some 501c3, going to get out there and be able to get a grant and be able to go around fixing housing grant. Because I know in the past I had brought up about there was a housing grant that the city could get that to help person that's 62 years or over to fix up their house, to help them stay in their house. And I know I met with the city manager and one of the public works, but for my gathering, I don't think we had no one that could be able to fill out or be able to apply for that grant. Then I'm going to end with another thing. I know England Pool been in our history, and I'm going to say in the black community, long withstanding within the 70s. It's still staying there stagnated. And I would ask about that again today. What is the city going to do with England Pool? I know they whether tear it down so I can stop coming up here or stop mentioning about England Pool, but that should not be the issue. If you want to go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to fix up, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, the old Boys and Girls Center, I think you can do the same thing with England Pool. And just think all the money right now we spending downtown, we spend almost $1 million downtown. And I said, and we can do the same. I ain't going to say England Pool would cost $1 million, but we could go ahead and fix up that, because I know where England Pool is located. Like I previously said before, that's what I learned to swim at in the past. And I think having that pool back up and back fixed again, just look at how many lives you may save in the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Garcia? Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, good afternoon.
I have never done this before, so I have no idea what I'm doing. The thing is that I got this letter a while ago. Somebody gave us a house, the house next to our house, and it's located on 1914 Dudley Street, and it's a burned house. I didn't know that I had to repair it. We just got the house, and now they're saying that there's a possible condemnation. I don't know how to say it. The thing is that I don't have the money to do that right now, and I was wondering if we could, like repair the part that is burned and then give us more time to rebuild the house or do something with it, because we don't know what to do right now. And I was wondering if we could have more time to do that.
Okay, so the best thing to do is tomorrow or the next day is make an appointment with Public Works. So that's going to be on our ordinance tonight. That property will be on our ordinance to fit into the demo cycle. So you have 30 days to get it off of there. So you can go meet with Public Works and see if you can remedy what you're asking for, get a permit to repair what you want to repair, and it will come off of that list.
Oh.
But you'll have to comply with Public Works, which is downstairs here in City Hall, and just make an appointment with them either tomorrow or the next day. But after tonight, you'll have 30 days to do something, or it will continue on through the demo process.
Got it. Okay,
Ma'am,
thank you.
What was that address?
Sorry?
What was that address again?
1910 Dudley?
Yeah,
1910 Dudley?
yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board tonight? Citizens communication time? Anyone else? Okay. Moving right along, we have a presentation tonight by our interim city attorney, Josh Potter, on the freedom of information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I gave you guys these handbooks. They are free from the Attorney General's office. I sent in my request, and they sent them to me within the week. This is a good little Bible for the Freedom of Information Act. It'll tell you anything you want to know, practically anything you want to know. I've done this with the A&P Commission. I'm probably overdue, but it's a brief presentation on the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. Not accusing anyone. I haven't got any information that we're having meetings that aren't, disclosed to the public or the media, but I just think it's a good refresher for everyone, including the public. This originated in 1967. There's also, almost every state has it. The federal government has it, but Arkansas adopted it in 1967. Freedom of Information Act covers two specific areas: public meetings and public records. Next slide, please. The intent, which a lot of the issues that you may question yourself, a general rule of thumb is it needs to be public. Under the Arkansas Code, to ensure that electors and their representatives are fully advised of the activities and decisions of their public officials. Case law sets forth liberal interpretation. So if there's a question, any court will probably lean towards either open to the public or release of the records or information. Exemptions to be narrowly construed, exemptions like somebody requests specific records dealing with the election commission, or personnel. Obviously, you don't have to disclose birth dates and social security numbers, but that's very narrow. Again, it all bends towards public release. Next, please. Obviously, and I'm sure most in this room know this already, but requires most meetings of governing bodies to be open to the public, allows the public to inspect and receive copies of public records of governmental agencies unless the law makes an exception. And if private organizations receive public funding, they might be open to these same requirements of release to the public or public meetings. Freedom of Information Act does not require citizen participation at meetings. They just have to be allowed to attend. except for county boards have to afford citizens a reasonable opportunity to participate prior to a final decision. And the record retention by state agencies and the city, I think, the majority of it has to be kept for a year. Obviously, a lot of records are kept for much, much longer than that. Next, please. What is a public meeting? Meetings of any bureau, commission, or agency in the state or any political subdivision of the state, including municipalities and counties, boards of education, and all other boards, bureaus, commissions, or organizations in the state of Arkansas except grand juries supported wholly or in part by public funds or expending public funds. And it doesn't matter if no action is taken. What is a meeting? And that is 2 or more board members, for example. And talking about public business, if you see a board member or the mayor out at dinner, you say, hey, how's it going? And you talk about birthdays or the Razorbacks, that's not business. You're not talking business. But, you know, if you ask, hey, what are you thinking on that resolution that we got tabled for next week, that is a violation. Next, please. Applies to governing bodies, subcommittees, does not apply to staff meetings or advisory bodies unless de facto governing body. Advisory committees composed partially of board members might be covered. A specific statute may govern particular meetings. Records may be open, but meetings closed if not a governing body. A quorum is not required to make a meeting. 3 members to discuss government business. They must comply with the open meetings rule. 2 members can be a meeting, depending on the facts. Polling or pre-meeting conferencing before a vote is covered. And so I think the case law from whenever a body, whether it be a school board in Fort Smith or the board in Little Rock, where they get in trouble is, hey, how are you going to vote? What do you think on this? And I think the example in Fort Smith was that they were, I think, the Southside Rebels, Fort Smith Southside High School, they were voting to do away with their rebel mascot and singing Dixie. And it was on the agenda, no discussion, no vote, or they voted unanimously. And somebody said, well, how y'all just all voted without talking to each other about it? And then it was discovered that they had, in fact, all spoken the week prior and talked and discussed how they were going to vote. That saves time. That saves a lot of time. But again, the public has a right to know and to be involved in those discussions. And so I just think that's where people may get into hot water, is discussing things that are coming up on an agenda. Yeah, there it is. There is a right to know how officials vote. No secret ballots. Of course, we can't do that, and I don't think anybody would. Telephone conferences are permissible if proper procedures are followed and notice is given. Of course, that means notice to the media. Next, please. Social gatherings, conferences. It is not a meeting if no discussion of government business at the social gathering, or if it's incidental and intermittent. Maybe not if the governing body has no control over the conference, function, or proceeding. That's an old opinion. I would guess that any court would find that would be a violation today. Email. Email messages are public records and ordinarily do not evidence a meeting, generally analogous instead to written correspondence. But possibility exists for violating FOIA with sequential or circular series of communications. And so, city manager sending a city board-wide email about upcoming business, that would be a violation. And I think that's covered, and I don't believe that that happens, but it's good to know. Everybody, Lord knows that we could trim a lot of time if we could conduct business via email, but the public wouldn't know anything about it. Next, please. The time and place of each regular meeting shall be furnished to anyone who requests the information. No one is entitled to notice unless it is requested. No particular form of notice required, but must be calculated to give actual notice. Must publish the date and time and location of any meeting and hearing open to the public at least 3 days before the meeting. Doesn't apply to emergency or special meetings. In the event of an emergency or special meeting, the person calling the meeting shall notify the representatives of the newspapers, radio stations, television stations, if any, located in the county in which the meeting is to be held, and any news media located elsewhere which cover regular meetings of the governing body and which have requested to be so notified of emergency or special meetings of the time, place, and date of the meeting. Again, this is all, obviously, board members don't have anything to do with that, but I think that's taken care of very well by the staff. Next, please. Executive session for certain personnel issues. Executive session may be called only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of a public officer or employee. That's, next one is state boards. That doesn't apply. So if an action taken at an illegal meeting will not be invalidated unless, and this is plaintiff, this is way on down the line if a lawsuit has been filed. Plaintiff has given the body a chance to hold a meeting that conforms. Remedy is sought to vindicate public as opposed to private interest. The FOIA violation was substantial, and the defendant knowingly violated the act. Okay? So an illegal meeting, for instance, one that nobody was notified, you took action to build a dome around Arkansas High School football stadium. Okay? Obviously, that would be impermissible. That would not be invalidated unless plaintiff would have given the body a chance to hold the meeting. Remedy is sought to vindicate public as opposed to private interest. That would be obviously a substantial FOIA violation. And the board would have knowingly violated that. So knowingly not told the public, not notified the media, and done in secret. Again, I don't think we have to worry about that, but it's also good for the public to know that. Next, please.
After this one?
Yes. Go ahead. Public records, writings, recorded sounds, films, tapes, electric or computer-based information or data compilations in any medium required by law to be kept or otherwise kept and which constitute a record of the performance or lack of performance of official functions. Excludes software acquired by purchase, lease, or license. All records maintained in public offices or by public employees within the scope of their employment are presumed to be public records. The presumption can be rebutted if the record does not reflect the performance or lack of performance of official functions. So if it's related to your job as a board member or public official, it has to be retained. Whether a particular record is a public record depends upon its content. You could argue about an email sent to a constituent about their house being condemned. Obviously, that's within your board function. Wishing her a happy birthday, because it's your constituent? Probably not. If challenged, if this for some reason went to court, the court has a duty to review the records in camera. In camera means in chambers or private, and not disclosed to the public. All public records shall be open to inspection and copying by any citizen during regular business hours. The Freedom of Information Act covers records, not information. And in the past, I've received requests for information as to some subject or the other. And a lot of that on the A&P Commission, and there wasn't any, I can't give you information. I'm not required to explain to you something. But if there is a document that memorializes that information, that has to be turned over, subject to those exemptions. An agency does not have to create a record. It has to already be there. And of course, if something is exempt, some personnel record with exempted information, social security number, that needs to be redacted only, and the rest of the records produced. Emails or letters sent to private email addresses or private residences of public officials are subject to FOIA if they involve the public's business. Otherwise, FOIA could be circumvented. A public entity can be the custodian of public records even if it does not have the physical or does not have physical possession of them, as long as it has administrative control of the records. That could be any number of things. Profit loss statements, of course, they would probably have control of those, but if it's in the hands of a third party, they must be disclosed if requested. Only citizens may request disclosure under Freedom of Information Act. Felons are denied access to Department of Correction and Community Correction records for safety purposes. Requests may be made in person, telephone, fax, electronic mail, or any other electronic means provided by the custodian. The request shall be sufficiently specific to enable the custodian to locate the records with reasonable effort. Citizens may request copies in any medium in which the record is readily available or any format to which it is readily convertible with existing software. The custodian is still not required to compile information or create a record in response to the request. So, give me a summary of this information. We can't do that. You get the documents we had or we have in our possession. FOIA compliance requires immediate access unless records are in active use or storage. If in active use or storage, the custodian must certify that fact in writing and set time within 3 working days to provide the records. The custodian must determine to what extent the records are public or not public, redact exempt portions, and provide the public records. An agency that is not the custodian of the requested records should identify the proper custodian if known or readily ascertainable. They may inspect, copy, or receive copies of public records. Once the A&P Commission, I got a request for I don't know how many years of applications for funding, and one year's application is in a 6-inch binder that Tirana gives me, and I laid them out there and said, you can come inspect these, and if you want a copy, let me know which one and we will provide you a copy. Upon request and payment of a fee, the custodian shall furnish copies of public records if the custodian has the necessary duplicating equipment. You can charge a reasonable fee for copies if it costs you money to copy the records. Act 310, these are 2021 Freedom of Information Acts. Act 310 allows for photography of public records. The citizen is allowed to capture still and moving images through image capture, including still and moving photography and video and digital recording. Of course, that's our phone. They can come up and take a picture of a document if they request it. Act 658 amends process governing disclosure of public employees' gross salary matter for you. Act 56 amends FOIA to allow for electronic public meetings. Emergency clause effective February 2nd, 2021. These other acts cover attorney's fees, workforce services, ballots, lottery winners. Doesn't pertain to anybody in here, I don't think. We can bypass these. They go through medical records, state income tax records. Is that it? No? Some exemptions. Files that would give advantage to competitors or bidders. Obviously, identities of undercover officers. General things that would make anything unsafe. Measures, procedures, instructions, or related data used to cause a computer to perform security functions. Passwords, personal identification numbers. Pretty common sense stuff. But, home addresses, non-elected state, county, and municipal employees' home addresses are exempt. But the custodian shall verify an employee's city or county of residence or address of record upon request. It goes into state agencies, school district employees' home addresses, military discharge records, reports, analysis, investigation of any other records that might jeopardize or compromise efforts to secure and protect the public water system. That's a big one. Vulnerability assessments submitted by a public water system. DHS, next. Homeland Security Information Act. Obviously, policing procedures, emergency response procedures, anything of that nature. And also, investigative records. If there's a current investigation of anything, those are exempt until there's been a final adjudication. Constitutional right to privacy, that goes into personnel issues. It balances the constitutional right to privacy with public disclosure of the government's business. And that's on a case-by-case basis. Penalties and enforcement. Negligent violation of the Freedom of Information Act is a Class C misdemeanor. Civil condition enforcement. Any citizen denied their Freedom of Information Act rights may appeal to circuit court, where the circuit court may award attorney's fees, monetary punishment. Attorney's fees may be awarded against a defendant where the plaintiff substantially prevails unless the position of the defendant was substantially justified or other circumstances would make an award unjust. Or against a plaintiff where the defendant substantially prevails only if the action was initiated primarily for frivolous or dilatory purposes. No attorney's fees may be awarded against the state or any of its departments or agencies. Sovereign immunity. And that's it. Again, it all goes back to, if there's a question, it needs to be made public, and it needs to be done in public. If y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions of Josh? All right, thank you. Moving into our consent agenda. Tonight, we have 2 items on our consent agenda. One is approval of the minutes of the regular meeting February 6th. The other is to adopt a resolution making a correction on the term date of the Historic District Commission, Greg Gallagher. What would be the desire of the board on the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the consent agenda passes. Moving right on into item number 4 of our regular agenda, which would be adopt a joint resolution by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, and the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, supporting the Texarkana Metropolitan Planning Organization's 2023 RAISE grant application for the State Line Corridor improvements. Tyler Richards.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. This is a joint resolution with the Texas side in support of MPO to apply for this RAISE grant. We've applied for this particular grant, I think the past 3 years, at least 2, if not 3. It's been named the Tiger Grant or the Build Grant in the past, but they've all been the same thing. It's for $25 million for State Line Avenue, and I think you're all familiar with the project that RDOT and TxDOT already have planned. They've got $24 million already allocated, so we'll be using those funds as a match for these RAISE grant funds, and that makes our application much more likely to be approved. So our portion, the $25 million for the grant, it would go to extra items that aren't covered in the TxDOT and RDOT project, like landscaping, sidewalks, utility replacements, lighting, all of those beautification type deals. None of those will be included in the state's project. The state's project's just strictly going to be to rehab the pavement, and that's virtually it. So anything extra would need to be covered by this grant. You have any questions?
Go get it.
All right.
Got a question.
We haven't got it, so. Good job. Yes.
Oh, that, when you came back about, I think we had approval of the MPO, thing on hiring during the meeting.
Yeah,
on
when you
state line.
approved the
And
the
what
option,
version was approved? What version was approved?
it was option number 2, but I do believe it was the one without the medians. That really doesn't have a whole lot to do with this.
Oh, it don't?
I take that back. Ultimately, that's going to be up to the states, to TxDOT and RDOT, how they construct this roadway. That's going to be up to them. But y'all did support the corridor study that we did, and picked an option for the city's desire, and that was given to the state, and they'll take that into account when doing their design. But ultimately, these funds are going to have to be spent with whatever the state's project is, because ultimately it's up to them. So we'll have to work with whatever they give us.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? So if not, I would instruct the city attorney to read the resolution.
Texarkana, Texas, resolution number 2023-019, a joint resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, and the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, supporting the fiscal year 2023 RAISE grant application for the State Line Corridor improvements and establishing an effective date. Whereas the U.S. Department of Transportation's notice of funding opportunity for $1.5 billion in grant funding through the Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity discretionary grant program, and whereas the Metropolitan Planning Organization is applying for the RAISE grant, maximum request allowed, and whereas the 2 cities and Metropolitan Planning Organization have shared interest in the improvements to the State Line Corridor, and whereas this project demonstrates a valuable contribution to both cities' continuing efforts towards building and maintaining pedestrian, bicycle, and transit amenities in our community and improving the gateway of Texarkana, USA. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, and the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, Section 1, that the Board of Directors for the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, and the City Council of the City of Texarkana, Texas, hereby approves the support of the Texarkana Metropolitan Planning Organization 2023 RAISE Grant application for state line corridor improvements. Section 2, this joint resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by both cities. Texarkana, Arkansas, pass and approve this 21st day of February 2023. Texarkana, Texas, passed and approved in regular council session on this blank day of blank 2023.
The city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Move for adoption.
Second.
So have a motion.
Somebody got
Did I hear something? No. Yes, ma'am. Did I hear something?
It was a phone.
Oh, I'm sorry. He's read the resolution. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes. Moving right on into item number 5 would be to consider the following actions concerning substandard structures. We are to conduct a public hearing regarding the demolition of 31, which is now 29 substandard structures. After the public hearing, we would adopt a resolution condemning 29 substandard structures for demolition. Tyler Richards. So I now declare a public hearing is open.
So y'all are used to this. We've got more, we're bringing more to you this year than we normally do. I think we started out with 42 structures or something like that. Lots of folks have taken care of those on their own. We had to pull some of the commercial ones off because the state's going to make us do some asbestos studies and abatement on it, so we weren't able to include that in this one. But I will run through these addresses real quick. Sorry, that's kind of difficult to see there, but 1001 Prince. I'm sorry, we classify these A1 through A4, A4 being the worst. A4 is either it's burned out or collapsed, and A3 it needs major repair. So most of these are going to be A3 and A4. 1001 Prince, A3 needs major repair. 409 MLK, it is A3, needs major repair. 709 Cleveland, A4, it's burned beyond repair. 77 Wellington, A4, burned beyond repair. 4104 Pinson, A4, it's burned beyond repair. 1115 East 19th, A3, needs major repairs. 1518 County, A3, needs major repair. 2012 North Rondo, that one's real difficult to see, sorry. It is A3, needs major repairs. 1110 Hayes, A4, it's burned and it's nothing but a pile there now. 1006 Grimm, A4, burned. 1507 Eugenia, A4, burned. I apologize, I think Eugenia's misspelled there. 2003 Pearl, A3, needs major repair. 1821 Dudley, A4, burned. 1914 Dudley, A4, burned. 1202 Prince, A3, needs major repair. 512 DeMorse, A3, needs major repair. 120 East Side, A3, needs major repair. 907 Ida, A3, needs major repair. 1610 Harner, A4, burned beyond repair. 904 Euclid, A3, needs major repair. 309 Laurel, A3, needs major repair. 310 East 14th, A3, needs major repair. 919 East 14th, A4, burned beyond repair. 2600 Locust, A3, needs major repair. 1705 Hickory, A3, needs major repair. And I'm sorry, if I have any questions about any of these, you can stop me. 1524 Hickory, A3, needs major repair. 3500 Central, A3, needs major repair. 403 Hickory, A4, burned beyond repair. 403 Pecan, A3, needs major repair. That's it. So if y'all approve these condemnations tonight, we'll send a notice out to the property owners that they'll have 30 days to acquire a permit for repairs or for demolition. If they don't pull a permit within that amount of time, we'll send out another notice, and we also post these notices on the structure itself, if we're able to, if there's much of a structure there. They'll get a 10-day notice then that they need to remove any personal belongings, because we're coming in to tear it down. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have, Director Harris?
Yes, sir.
I was just trying to recount again. I guess my first time I counted 21 in Ward 2. I was just trying to make sure if I counted right. And it's more or less a comment based on when I made my comments during civil communication time as to how far off are we trying to get a housing program? Because pretty soon, there's not going to be no houses in Ward 2 the way things are going on all these houses being tore down.
That is something that we are working on, an infill program. We've even acquired some properties from the state that we're going to look at doing an infill program with. But we are working on a program right now. It's not completed yet, but we are working on that. So I would like to think that here real soon we'll have a program going. But, you know, a big problem with these is we still have to acquire the property after we tear it down. You know, we don't own it once we tear it down. So that's a whole nother issue that Josh knows more about than I do.
And my other question, where would the funding come from? We can have all
The funding to
program.
demolish these structures?
No, I know where that comes from.
Oh, okay, I
For,
got you.
for the housing program. Where would the funding come from?
I imagine some of it could come from CDBG. Some of it would have to be in our normal budget. It just all depends. But, I mean, those items would have to be budgeted. But I know a lot of the idea is that we acquire these properties for next to nothing, and then we enter into an agreement with a developer or a 501c3 like Habitat, and enter into an agreement, a construction agreement with them that they put, that they get a house built on that property within, 18 months or something like that, put a timeline on them so that it gets done. That's the idea right now. We still have to work through some things, but that is the idea.
Okay. And my last question, what if someone want to come and work with the city on trying to get grant, but yet, how would that come about? I had a conversation with someone today, and they want to be able to write the grant and get the grant, but they need to somewhat be up under the umbrella of the city to apply for the grant. How would that work?
Does this pertain to the condemnation?
No, that was contained to doing the housing.
Housing.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, y'all would have to get with city manager on that.
They would need to get the city manager.
I'm sorry?
It was something that the city manager would have to do and not the board per se.
I don't know. I think that needs to be discussed with the city manager, though.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I mean, we're in the process of looking for a grant writer. Do we have any applicants or any, Tyrone?
I actually have already interviewed 2 people, and I actually have 2 more interviews set up for Wednesday.
So this would be somebody that, what Director Harris has referenced, that person would have a go-to person to work with to help secure grants that this person might not even knows available.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
The property on Pinson, is that in your?
It is.
Okay. It looks like a fairly new structure, is it?
It's
It
completely
looked-
burned out.
Yeah, it's burned, it's in terrible shape. Shape it needs to go.
Has it been there long?
Now,
It's been there for, you talking about since it burned?
Yes.
I believe it's been at least a year. It was tagged in May of '22. That's just when we found it and tagged it.
Gotcha.
And it's possible that we tagged it right after it burned. I'm not real sure on that one in particular. Yeah, it was tagged in May of '22.
And I got
And
a
you-
question.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, the house on 1610 Horner, I know you had someone came and spoke about that. I'm aware of that house being, what if that house had burnt and they took all the side and all around it, basically got a top and had frame.
Yes,
That house been like that almost 15 years or more, or maybe even longer. 15 at least I can remember.
It's been like this for 15 years?
Where it don't have no wall, basically, and you
Right,
basically
yeah.
just have a frame. That
Okay.
house been like that almost 15-something years or more. So
We-
how can you,
I'm not sure. I know that we tagged it again in January of '22. I believe that a lot of these houses that were tagged previously, we didn't have record of or anything, so we had to go back and re-tag a whole lot of structures. So, I mean, there could be some out there still that we haven't caught, that have been out there for a longer time that we haven't got tagged. But for the last 2 years, our code enforcement officers and our inspectors have been tagging a lot of houses, any ones that they can find. So there's probably not very many out there that we haven't caught, but we did find that some were tagged and we had no record of them being tagged before, so we did re-tag those structures. But we've also never allocated money like we have right now to building demolition. I mean, the last 2 years, we've put $100,000 in each year for condemnation demolitions, and I think the most I'd seen before that was maybe 25, maybe 30,000. So, I mean, we've had a large push in this subject.
Any other questions for Tyler?
Mr. Richards, the two paragraphs you and I talked about this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
You will work on getting those to come in to.
It's already done.
It's already done?
Yes, sir.
It's not reflected here though, right? But
I don't know.
Correct.
Okay. It's
Correct.
done in the resolution that will be signed.
okay.
Right.
Any other questions? Any other comments during the public hearing portion? If not, we'll adjourn the public hearing. At this time, without any other questions, I just have one point of reference. Is it permissible in reading the resolution just to read the address?
That's what I was asking what had been done
I
previously.
mean, the resolution includes all of the information
Yes.
that we're voting on, that the board has had, and that we've just seen a presentation on. If no one, not a board member objects, I would suggest that the city attorney read the addresses of the 29 properties only.
I agree. There's a lot of them. It would take some time to read
Yeah.
them. And we're talking the legal description.
That's right. And the address, the owner, and the legal description to me doesn't really, it's valid inside the resolution that we're passing.
Correct.
So without, yes,
Yeah, I don't object to that. I think if everyone else agree, I think we ought to let them just read the address.
so I would entertain a motion for the suspending the rules to read the entire resolution and have the city attorney read the address only for the 29 substandard structures we're going to be destroying.
I'll make that motion.
Okay? Have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and have the address read. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Harris,
yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. At this time, we'll have the city attorney read the resolution.
Whereas the Public Works Department has requested an order of condemnation under Section 1187 of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances for the following 29 substandard residential structures. 1001 Prince, 409 Martin Luther King, 709 Cleveland, 77 Wellington, 4104 Pinson, 1115 East 19th Street, 1518 County, 2012 North Rondo, 1110 Hayes, 1006 Grimm, 1507 Eugenia, 2003 Pearl, 1821 Dudley, 1914 Dudley, 1202 Prince, 512 DeMorse, 120 East Side, 907 Ida, 1610 Harner, 904 Euclid, 309 Laurel, 310 East 14th Street, 919 East 14th Street, 2600 Locust, 1705 Hickory, 1524 Hickory, 3500 Central, 403 Hickory, 403 Pecan. Whereas the owners of the listed properties have been notified that the structures on the properties are in violation of the Arkansas Fire Prevention Code and the International Property Maintenance Code, but little to no work has been done on the structures, and the allowed time period has lapsed for the owners to voluntarily bring the structures into code compliance. And whereas such structures have become dilapidated, unsightly, unsafe, unsanitary, obnoxious, or detrimental to the public welfare, and whereas the Public Works Department has attempted to notify by certified mail the last owner of record of each property, informing them that the Board of Directors will consider declaring these structures a nuisance, and whereas notices of the condemnations will be sent to the owners of record, allowing 30 days to obtain a permit for repairs or a permit to demolish the structure and clear the property, failing which the city will have the right to demolish the structure after giving the property owners at least 10 days in which to remove any personal property. And whereas the city manager and staff recommend approval, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the above properties are found to be condemned under the provisions of Section 1187 and other applicable sections of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas Code of Ordinances, that the Public Works Department shall provide to the owners of record with notices of condemnations and allow 30 days to obtain a permit for repairs or a permit for demolition by such property owners, that the Public Works Department is authorized to demolish any of the above described structures that have not been issued a permit for repairs or a permit for demolition within 30 days period after giving the owners at least 10 days in which to remove any personal items. Pass and approve this 21st day of February 2023.
The city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes, and the resolution passes. Moving right along to item number 6 on our agenda, which is to adopt an ordinance waiving competitive bidding, authorizing the city manager to purchase a 2022 Ford F-250 truck for the Public Works Department.
I need a truck, and there's not many available.
Is it loaded with asphalt?
Not this one, no. No,
Good question.
but, yeah, trucks are extremely, extremely difficult to come by right now. I typically order trucks off of the state contracts, but the way the state contracts work, or the way new vehicles are working for fleet vehicles, the orders come in, you have to order them in November, and they're closing very soon after. So you can't even get those state contract trucks after our budget is approved. So McClarty has one right now. They called me when they got it. So I would really like to get this one while we can.
Sure. Anybody have any questions for Tyler? No.
I don't see the price. Oh, there.
Pardon?
I was looking for the price.
No, it's 45,571. Any other questions? I remind the board, this is an ordinance. The city has asked an emergency clause as well. What would be the desire of the board to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
First reading abbreviated form.
Second.
Have a first and second, a motion and second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, approving the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 4x4 truck for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading, abbreviated form, please.
All right, so have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, approving the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 4x4 truck for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, approving the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 4x4 truck for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third reading, its third and final reading tonight. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt this particular ordinance, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against? Hearing and seeing none, could you call a roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. And the ordinance passes. The city has asked for emergency clause. What would be the desire of the board to attach an emergency clause?
Motion to attach emergency clause.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to attach emergency clause. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollowbush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, the motion, emergency clause is attached. Moving right along to our last item on the agenda tonight, item number 7 is to adopt an ordinance waiving competitive bidding for the purchase of new self-contained breathing apparatus equipment. Chief Fletcher.
So good evening, Mayor, Directors. First, I wanted to point out before I got started that the structures you just voted on to condemn, those fires have occurred over a period of quite a few years, as Director Harris was pointing out. It wasn't like we had a rash of fires here lately, and here they are. I mean, I can count some of them back that have been burnt for a decade ago or so. I was trying to place them in my mind, but that has happened, and it's good to see us moving forward and getting them took care of. The item we have on right now is a question of ordinance, and I wanted to explain why I was asking to waive the competitive bidding. For the ordinance to be for purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus, and next slide, please. This is just kind of a picture, shows what we're looking to get for clarification. You have your harness, your regulator, your cylinders, your mast, webbing, and all of that. We're looking to purchase about 33 units at the moment. We actually have like 42 older ones, but I had to fit what we could get within the budget this year, and what I'm requesting is sufficient to operate with. Next slide, please. It's some of our most important safety gear. About anything we go on that has any kind of hazardous atmosphere of any kind, they're used. The current gear is over 10 years old, and with the usage it gets and the conditions they work in, they need replaced. Next slide, please. Limited number of SCBA manufacturers. It's hard to keep up with all the safety regulations and the insurance and stuff that these things cost. Only 3 of them, Scott Safety, MSA, and Draeger, have dealers in the region. There's a couple or 3 other manufacturers, but they're not present in our area. Next slide. We obtained loaner units from MSA and Draeger, tested them extensively. Scott Safety out of Conway did not seem interested, so we dropped them. And after testing it, personnel overwhelmingly chose MSA as the preferred option. It just seemed to wear better and work better than the competition. Not to mention, we've used MSA, SCBA since the 1980s. I believe the first one we got were like mid-80s, and they were MSA, and we've been with them ever since. the local dealer, Casco Industries out of Shreveport. We've dealt with them for decades and have always got best service and nothing negative at all to say about them. And in today's climate, that means a lot. Their purchase of these air packs, the MSAs in particular, would help us maintain compatibility with the Texas side. They use the same air packs, and also the vast majority of county units use the same ones. So we'd have compatibility at their body. And that's it. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions of Chief Fletcher?
I have a question. Chief,
Oh, go ahead.
the 33 units that you're seeking to purchase, would that be enough for all of your stations? And how many stations do you have?
We actually had to look at it, how many trucks we'd have out at any
Okay.
one time, and we got 5. And we generally carry 4 on each truck, so there you have 20. The remaining 13 are just spares. They're spread out across our reserve apparatus, and if we need to use them, they're there.
Okay.
The reason we have more than that is basically just their redundancy, But as I did mention, we're not going to have the same total number that we have now, but it's well within the range we need to operate. And I could also see in the coming years maybe adding to that number.
Okay. And also, Chief, you stated that you was familiar with the MSA, and so you will you need additional training for the new ones? Is there going to be a technology upgrade, or?
About every 5 years, the NFPA makes updates on the technology. The NFPA's standards writing body, a lot of manufacturers involved in that, so you can imagine they swing things their way, but for the most part, they get stuff right. And the old MSAs we have now are the 2007 standard. The new ones we'll be getting are like, I think about the 2018 standard, so it would be a jump in 2 standard lifetimes there. And the next standard may come out in the mid-2020s, but it's just incremental things, not anything groundbreaking or anything at this point. So the idea of about a decade with this equipment is pretty spot on. We can look to get service that long out of it.
Chief, once you purchase the new one, are they going to require that they receive the old ones back?
No, that'll actually be for us to take care of. We can auction them off as a secondary market for them. Or a lot of times the city, myself, with discussion with the city manager and so on, we've donated a lot of this stuff to like volunteer departments that need it badly. So you got to kind of weigh how much money we could get out of the old equipment with, what good we could do there.
Good deal. Thank you.
That'll be a decision made later.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Fletcher?
Chief, how long would it take you to get them in?
That's a good question, Director, and I'd like to be able to say, it'd be soon. They'll have to be ordered. I would be surprised if we get them by the end of summer. And
You're good till then, though.
that is one reason I've requested emergency clauses, of course. Just as soon as I can order them, the better.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll remind the board, this is an ordinance. The chief has asked for an emergency clause as well. What would be the desire of the board to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
First reading, abbreviated form.
So we'll have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read in abbreviated form on its first reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollebush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, approving the purchase of new self-contained breathing apparatus equipment for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading or abbreviated form?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, approving the purchase of new self-contained breathing apparatus equipment for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third and final reading, abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Let's have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding, approving the purchase of new self-contained breathing apparatus equipment for declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
So ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt. Prior to the board voting to adopt, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this particular ordinance? Hearing and seeing none, could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. And the ordinance is adopted. What would be the desire of the board to attach an emergency clause?
Motion to attach emergency clause.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to attach emergency clause. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Jewell,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. And the ordinance passes and the emergency clause is attached. We'll move right into board members' commentary. Is there any board member that wishes to address anything tonight?
Got a couple things.
Okay.
So this last weekend, we had our first Mardi Gras parade in a couple years, and we had an incredible turnout. We had 50-plus vendors, 50-plus floats, and probably 5,000 or 6,000 people downtown. Cross Ties did the carnival as well, and it's the busiest I've ever seen the carnival downtown. So the citizens did great. There wasn't a lot of trash left on the ground, so downtown looked good after the carnival and the parade. And so I just want to thank everybody that came out to that. We had a good time, and we're going to do it bigger and better next year. Also, at our last meeting, there were concerns about Tri-State Iron and Metal, and I made a comment that I would set up a community meeting with the citizens and the owners of Tri-State. And so on March the 2nd, we'll have a community meeting where a representative from Tri-State will come down and answer any questions, also inviting our Public Works Director and City Manager. And so anybody that's affected by that is more than welcome to come be a part of this meeting and ask questions and have those answered, or anybody from the community that just wants to be involved and know what's going on. We're going to have that. It's going to be on March the 2nd at the Iron Mountain Center, 5 p.m., which is 1101 Couch Street. And that's going to be open to anybody. I'm going to put out some stuff on Facebook and create a flyer as well. So I encourage anybody that lives over there in Iron Mountain to come and ask some tough questions.
Okay, any other board member? Okay. At this time, the board will adjourn into executive session. We have a couple of things to discuss in executive session. One would be to adopt a resolution appointing Jason Dupree on the Board of Adjustments, also to get an update on our search for a city manager and a search for a city attorney. So, yes.
I got one question about the search for the city attorney. I did some research and I found out that the city attorney does not have to have a resident status to be the city attorney. So, but the city manager has to. So, that the city attorney do not have to live in Texas County, Arkansas to be city attorney.
Will they have to be in the state of Arkansas?
It's my understanding with our previous city attorney that that person does, and he has to be able, he or she has to be, have a law license to practice in Arkansas.
I'm not saying.
We can get that clarified.
I'm saying they didn't have to have no law to practice. I'm saying they do not have resident in the city of Texarkana, Arkansas.
Be inside the city limits.
Inside the city limit, but a city manager does.
Yes, I agree with that. I was under the impression that with the previous city attorney that in getting direction from him that it did.
Well, mine came from the Arkansas Municipal League, so,
Okay,
so
All right.
I'll go ahead and say where mine came from.
okay. All right, at this time, we'd like to excuse all guests for us to have a brief executive session.